Okay, so majority of Parshas Tazria and Mitzvah speak about. Good guess there. It's also right. Guess or not, it was correct. Okay. There are many things you can talk about in Tzaraat, but let's start with the question of why one guessed Tzaraat. What's the answer to that question according to the Psukim? According to the Psukim.
Just random. Just happens. No.
Good, Mati. We have absolutely no idea in the Psukim. In the Psukim we have no clue. Now, the majority position in Chazal and the Mefarshim is that it's caused by, be very careful because you're about to say the wrong answer. What?
Certain sins.
Good. Certain sins. Certain sins. That was the right answer. Right? The majority of the Mefarshim assume that it is a punishment of sorts. Now, the most famous of that is Lashon Hara. Right? That's one everyone quotes, even though in that same Gemara it lists at least 7 sins for which you can get Tzaraat, including murder and Shvuat Shav and theft. But sure, the most famous of it is Lashon Hara. Why? No, what was the source?
The most common.
What is the source for their contention? Miriam, right? Meaning the source for the claim that it comes from, that at least one of the sins you could get it for is Lashon Hara is from Miriam. Now that's not so simple, because the Gemara also suggests that it's not Lashon Hara, it's Gasat Ruach. There are many, right? It's arrogance, which it equally works with the Miriam story, because the Miriam story, her sin was, what was her sin? Or assuming that she was a Navi of the level of Moshe, right? If you read what Hashem actually gets angry about, right, is the fact that how dare you think that you are of the level of Moshe, such that you say, what you say, don't you know that B'chol Beiti Ne'emanhu? Right? Now, the truth is that of the sins those are probably the two that are the most well known. Lashon Hara is by far and away the most well known of the Averet Chazal ascribed to this. The fact that the Gemara suggests murder and Shvuat Shav and theft, and a host of others, right? I mean, Gemara, that's just one day. It says there are 7 sins for what you can get it, and the Midrashim expand on this and keep going.
Really?
Yeah, Vayikra and it's all.
No, I mean, I'm saying
there are many, many sins for which they ascribe Tzaraat. The second most famous probably is arrogance, is Gasat Ruach. What's the source for that? So that's the Midrash saying that he got Tzaraat because he was arrogant, but the Pasuk doesn't say he got Tzaraat, right? The source for that, maybe Moshe, right? Moshe we know got Tzaraat of the hand, but it's not clear what's going on there. Like, what did he get it for, right? But it's not clear it's arrogance, right? Because that's even more, that's more like unplaced, right? It's misplaced humility. So the punishment was presumably because he didn't go.
Who says the punishment?
The Midrash says the punishment, right? We don't know it's a punishment, right? It could not be a punishment, it could just be a siman. Correct. Now, where did they get arrogance from? So 2 of the more prominent Tzaraat stories in Nach, not in Chumash, are Naaman. Okay, Naaman, which is the Haftorah for this week, so there you go. So Naaman was the general of Aram, and he had Tzaraat, and he tells the king, one of his maidservants says, that there's a miraculous prophet in Israel named Elisha, and he can cure you. So Naaman tells the king of Aram about this, and the king of Aram says, look, I'll send a political request to the king of Israel, who Aram was more powerful than Israel. Israel was subservient to them, that he should heal you. At which point the king tears his clothes because because there's this miscommunication, and this is one of the themes throughout this Elisha story is that Nevi'im are independent of politics, but the standard Nevi'im in the ancient world they weren't real Nevi'im, they were just political hacks, right? So the king assumes that if he asks the king of Israel, look, you have a miracle worker, heal him, he'll just get Elisha. But the king knows he can't just demand anything from Elisha. He doesn't even understand what's going on. So he tears his clothes. He said, this is just a pretext for Aram to fight me. Meantime, Elisha sends a message, said, don't worry, send him to me. And so Naaman comes to him, and Naaman stands outside. And, waiting for Elisha to come in, and Elisha just sends him a messenger and says, go to the mikveh in the Yarden. Go dip in the Yarden. And Naaman is furious, and he says, what is this? I want him to come out to me, and why would I go to the Yarden? We have better rivers in Damascus. This is like, Yarden is a pathetic little nothing, which is true if you ever look at it, right? It's nothing. Right? It's really nothing. It's really nothing. Like, it's just nothing. And he storms away. And his servants say to him, look, Naaman, if he had told you to do something big, climb the highest mountain, prove yourself, you would have done it happily. Now he tells you to take a bath, and you're all upset. Just take a bath. What do you have to lose? So he takes a bath in the Yarden, and magically his skin is healed. And at that point, he comes to Elisha, and he comes in, and he says, I'm sorry. Now, I know there's an Navi B'Yisrael. I will only worship God from now on, and only when I politically have to bow to the Avodah Zarah, then I will bow, but I will have God in my mind. Now, we don't know what his sin was, but we do know that the healing for it was when he became humbled before Elisha, right? Meaning the cure came when he humbled himself, which does imply that part of the sin was arrogance. And then Gehazi, right, runs after. So Naaman offers to pay Elisha, and Elisha says, no, I don't want your money. Naaman leaves, and Gehazi, who's the assistant to Elisha, runs after him and says, why would he not ask money from this Aramean? Right? He goes and he says, Elisha changed his mind. Some poor people came. Can you just give us money for tzedakah? And what? He's Elisha's assistant. He's like his whatever. Yeah, his assistant. Well, according to Chazal, he's one of the people who has no chelik in Olam Haba. It's based on this story. So he gives him the money, and then Elisha comes. He comes back to Elisha, and Elisha says, "Where you been? Nowhere. Liar! I know what you just did, and now the tzaraat of Naaman will stick to you and your children forever," and he becomes a mitzvah. And there, clearly, it's arrogance, right? He thinks he knows more than Elisha. It's not really theft. I mean, he gave it to him as a gift. Yes, it could be theft, but what he argued really is, what are you doing, right? I said, go without money, right? And now you think you know better than me, right? Now, Chazal, in the Haftarah for next week, read that he is cured, because the story of the Arba Mitzrayim, they read as, the story of Arba Mitzrayim? The Arba Mitzrayim, who save the Jews from Aram because they're starving, and they go and go, okay. Another story which indicates that it's arrogance is the story of
the guy in Navi.
Wow, that was who saw that one coming? It actually wasn't, but okay. I mean, it is, but it's but this is probably the real source for Chazal's contention, right? The main source, which is Uzziah, right? Which is the king Uzziah. There's a small version of this in Malachim. The main version is in Divrei Yamim, where he was, he started off not so bad, and then at some point, I mean, he really wasn't so bad as things go. But at some point in Pasuk Ted Zayin it says, "Ukechezkato gava libo ad lahashchit vaymal ba'Adonai Elohav vayvo elcha Adonai laktir al mizbach haktoret." When he became strong, he became arrogant, and he thought that he could bring the ktoret, right, be not just king but kohen. Vayavo acharav Azariah kohen v'imo kohanim la'Adonai shmonim b'nei chayil, and the kohanim come and they say, "Don't do that." Vayamdu al Uzziah melech vayamru lo lecha Uzziah laktir la'Adonai ki kohanim l'bnei ki kohanim ne'aronim ukdashim laktir tseim in a mikdash kima alta v'lo lecha lechavod me'Adonai Elohim. This is not your honor; it's for the kohanim. Vayizaf Uzziah uviado maktir laktir. And he becomes enraged, and he brings the Ketoret, in spite of the Kohanim, and Tzaraat comes on his head, and he has Tzaraat for the rest of his life. Right? But there it's clear, right? The problem was, right? Right? It was the arrogance that led him to do this. And again, whichever sin it is, right? Like I said, this is one camp within the Mefarshim and Chazal, which is to say that Tzaraat is caused by sin. We'll talk about tomorrow is maybe why this is not the case, because, well, I'll put it this way. As Mati noted, the Psukim never tell you that it's for sin bichlal, much less what sin it comes for. Right? Now, it's obvious why the majority of the Mefarshim felt that it was punishment, because why else does one get this horrible disease that makes you kicked out of the camp and you have to scream, Tameh, Tameh? Like, it's a pretty egregious thing. But the deafening silence of the Torah as to whether this is a punishment leads a minority of Mefarshim, including possibly a day in Chazal, in the Gemara, not like some random midrash, but like Rabbi Yochanan in the Bavli, right, to suggest that this might not be the case, that it might actually not be for sin. So we'll suggest two other models tomorrow, and I guess maybe Thursday, or no, we don't have next week, unless you guys, maybe, what? And we could do Parsha, but we'll see. Anyways, but that's a little bit on the first day on where Chazal gets at least some of the sins. Where they get everyone, I don't know. Right? At some point, you just feel like some of the Midrashim are just like saying, look, it's a punishment, it's a bad punishment, so obviously,
Must be a bad sin.
right? Yeah, but like add another 7. What, like it's for bad sins, But again, the fact that it is for sin, you understand where they're coming from. The fact that the Torah doesn't say it's for sin is quite striking. But this is just a little bit on where some of the proofs come from Chazal for this being a punishment for particular sins. The rest of them you got to figure out. You got to go through that whole list and figure out if you can figure out every one.